Time to pull up a chair. We've got another great story for you today in the rLounge. Imagine growing up in a small Midwestern town where your parents don't just expect you to succeed, they own your success. Today in the rLounge, the investment these parents expected OP to repay looked a lot less like gratitude and a lot more like financial hostage-taking. Parents say I owed them my success and threatened to cut me out of their will if I didn't move back home, so I sold the house I bought for them. I was born as an only child to middle-class parents in a small Midwestern town. Growing up, my parents were always controlling and had extremely high expectations for me. I remember the first time they told me I owed them for raising me. I was in the first grade and had won a school competition. Instead of congratulating me, they reminded me that my success was because of their investment in me. The pattern continued throughout my childhood. Every achievement was met with, "See what our parenting did for you?" rather than genuine pride in my accomplishments. Despite minimal emotional support, I graduated high school as valedictorian and earned a full scholarship to a prestigious university 2,000 miles away. My parents were furious when I chose to attend college so far from home. They claimed I was abandoning them and made me feel guilty for pursuing my education. Throughout college, they constantly complained about the distance and demanded frequent visits, which was financially and emotionally draining for me. I was studying computer science and needed to focus on my coursework, but they couldn't understand why I couldn't just hop on a plane whenever they wanted to see me. After graduating summa cum laude, I landed a high-paying job at a major tech company in San Francisco. I was thrilled about starting my career, but my parents immediately began pressuring me to send money home. "We invested in you for 18 years, my mother would say. "Now it's time for you to pay us back." At first, I tried to be understanding. They weren't wealthy, and I thought maybe they were struggling financially. So for Christmas, I sent them $30,000 to help with their mortgage. I was making good money and wanted to help them out. 2 months later, I discovered that they hadn't used the money for their mortgage at all. They'd gone on a luxury vacation to Europe instead. Their house was old and needed constant repairs, so I decided to buy them a new one. I found a nice $450,000 house in their town and paid for it in cash, using my signing bonus and savings. I kept the deed in my name as a long-term investment property, but let them live there rent-free. I figured that approach might make them leave me alone and give me some breathing room. I was nearly done dealing with them anyway. I was already planning to buy a house, and I'd probably sell it when the market's strong. They were ecstatic when they moved in, called me their successful son to all their friends and neighbors, but within a month, they started demanding monthly support payments of $5,000 on top of the free housing. When I refused, my father said, "After everything we've done for you, this is how you repay us? By being stingy?" Things got worse when I told them I was buying a condo in San Francisco. My mother called me in tears, saying I was abandoning them by putting down roots in California. My father got on the phone and said, "If you really cared about us, you'd move back home." My career was in San Francisco, and I'd already bought them a house to live in rent-free, but they couldn't see past their own desires. They started demanding I move back home to take care of them, despite the fact that they were both healthy, in their early 50s, and perfectly capable of taking care of themselves. During Christmas, I flew home to visit them. The house looked great, and I was happy to see they were enjoying it. But on Christmas Day, they dropped a bomb on me. They sat me down in the living room and presented me with an ultimatum: either move back home or be cut from their will. I actually laughed out loud. "You're threatening to cut me out of your will? I bought this house. You're living in my property rent-free." My father's face turned red. "This is our house. You bought it for us as a gift." "No, I bought it as an investment property, and I'm letting you live here rent-free. The deed is in my name." My mother burst into tears. "After everything we've done for you, we raised you, fed you, clothed you, you owe us." I left early the next day. They called me ungrateful and selfish as I walked out the door. When I got back to San Francisco, I tried to put the whole thing behind me. They started calling my workplace daily, asking to speak to me. When the receptionist wouldn't put them through, they demanded to speak to my boss. They told him I was neglecting my family responsibilities and needed to be sent home to take care of them. He called me into his office and explained what was happening. "Your parents seem to think that I can force you to move back to your hometown." I explained the situation, and he immediately contacted HR and security to block their calls. I sent my parents a formal cease and desist letter regarding their workplace harassment. They responded by spreading lies to my relatives, telling everyone I had abandoned them after they sacrificed everything for me. After months of this behavior, I decided enough was enough. The housing market in their area had appreciated significantly since I purchased the property, and I realized I could make a good profit by selling it. More importantly, I needed to cut financial ties with my parents. As long as they lived in my house, they would continue to feel entitled to control my life. I consulted with a real estate attorney who confirmed I had every legal right to sell the property. I then sent my parents a certified letter informing them that I would be selling the house in 60 days, and they needed to find alternative living arrangements. The response was immediate and explosive. My father called me screaming that I couldn't kick them out of their home. I reminded them that it was my home, not theirs, and that I had legal documentation to prove it. He threatened to sue me. I hung up and blocked his number, making sure to record his threats first. As a precaution, I installed security cameras around the property to monitor for any potential damage. Over the next few weeks, they started sending gifts and apologetic messages, claiming they'd seen the error of their ways and wanted to make amends. I returned all packages unopened. I wasn't falling for their manipulation again. A month after my notification letter, I received an offer on the house for $520,000, a $70,000 profit after just 1 year of ownership. I accepted immediately and informed my parents they had 45 days to vacate the premises. My mother called crying, saying they had nowhere to go. My father got on the line and claimed they had squatters' rights and couldn't be forced to leave. I had my real estate attorney send them a formal legal notice explaining the consequences of refusing to vacate, including potential legal fees and damage to their credit. The truth was, my parents had plenty of money. They both had good jobs and substantial savings. They had simply become accustomed to taking advantage of me and didn't want that gravy train to end. I've been amazed at how entitled my parents feel to my success. They genuinely believe that because they raised me, which is literally the legal obligation of all parents, I owe them financial support for the rest of their lives. They see me as an investment that should be paying dividends now, not as a son they should be proud of. I would have happily helped them if they hadn't been so demanding and manipulative. I bought them a house because I wanted to, not because I was obligated to, but their demands for more pushed me to my breaking point. The house sale is as planned. My parents have been sending increasingly desperate messages through extended family members, but I'm standing firm. I've worked hard for my success. I earned a full scholarship through academic excellence. I landed a high-paying job through my own merits. I bought a house for my parents out of generosity, not obligation. And now I'm selling the house because they've shown they don't respect me or my boundaries. I'm not sure what will happen next. The sale should be finalized soon, and my parents will need to find a new place to live. I hope this serves as a wake-up call for them, but I'm not holding my breath. Some people never change, and I'm starting to accept that my parents might be among them. I've blocked my parents on all communication channels and instructed my mutual contacts not to pass messages between us. It's been peaceful, and I intend to keep it that way. I never wanted things to come to this. Raising kids isn't supposed to come with an invoice, but they acted like you owed them forever. You did everything you could to keep them happy and set boundaries, but they just kept pushing. Selling the house sounds like a smart move to finally get some peace. Update. In my last post, I explained how my parents tried to blackmail me into moving back home by threatening to cut me out of their will, and how I responded by selling the house I had bought for them. Well, a lot has happened since then, and I wanted to give you all an update. After I posted this, my parents called my cousins, whom I'm close with, to complain about me. They told them I was cruelly making them homeless after all they'd done for me. Fortunately, my cousins know what my parents are like. I sent them the full documentation of the situation, including proof that I owned the house, the threatening messages from my parents, and evidence of their workplace harassment. My cousins immediately took my side and told my parents that they were being ridiculous. This pattern repeated with most of my extended family. They tried to paint me as the villain, but once people heard the full story, almost everyone supported my decision. Then things took a turn for the worse. My security cameras caught my parents attempting to damage the house to reduce the sale value. They were deliberately scratching the hardwood floors, putting holes in walls, and even tried to break the HVAC system. I immediately filed a police report with the video evidence. The police visited them and warned them that they could face criminal charges for property damage. The next day, I filed for an emergency court order to remove them from my property. Given the documented property damage, the court granted an emergency eviction. The sheriff served them with an eviction notice, giving them 72 hours to vacate. They were shocked. I don't think they believed I would actually follow through with legal action against them. They moved out under sheriff's supervision. After they left, I discovered the damage was worse than I initially thought, about $18,000 worth. I filed a civil lawsuit against them for the property damage. Their attorney contacted me a week later, wanting to settle. We agreed on $25,000 to cover the damages and my legal fees. Of course, they couldn't just accept defeat gracefully. They started a smear campaign in their hometown, telling everyone I was making them homeless. I sent a cease and desist letter regarding the defamation, which they ignored. Then a local newspaper contacted me wanting to run a story about a heartless child evicting elderly parents. I sent the newspaper complete documentation, including police reports and the settlement agreement. The editor called me personally to apologize and said they wouldn't be running the story after seeing the evidence. With the repairs completed, I successfully closed on the house sale, receiving $502,000 after all expenses. The $70,000 profit felt good, but not as good as finally cutting financial ties with my manipulative parents. What's really interesting is what I discovered after they moved out. Through a mutual acquaintance, I learned that they had substantial savings, over $200,000, that they'd been hiding. All their claims about being destitute without my support were complete lies. They could easily afford their own housing, but preferred to live rent-free in my house while guilt-tripping me for more money. Their behavior was never about need, it was about control. They wanted to keep me financially tethered to them so they could continue manipulating me. After the sale closed, they rented a luxury apartment using my aunt as a guarantor. They didn't tell her about the property damage history or the fact that they had been just evicted. I felt obligated to inform her so she wouldn't be blindsided if they pulled the same stunts in their new place. A week later, I received a demand letter from a cheap lawyer they'd hired, claiming I had caused them emotional distress by selling their house. My lawyer sent a comprehensive response dismissing all claims and threatening a countersuit for their documented harassment and property damage. Their lawyer immediately withdrew representation. I guess he hadn't realized what he was getting into with them. I filed for a restraining order based on their continued harassment, which was granted. They cannot contact me or come near me, my home, or my workplace. Of course, they violated it almost immediately by sending me a letter, which I promptly reported to the police. They received a court summons and were fined $2,500 for the violation. The judge also ordered them to complete an anger management course. Throughout the whole fiesta, I've received support from my parents' siblings. Apparently, my parents have pulled similar manipulative tactics with them over the years. My uncle told me, "They've always felt entitled to other people's success. You're just the first person to stand up to them." The most absurd development came when I discovered my parents had set up a GoFundMe claiming I had left them destitute. They were using my name and telling a completely fabricated story about how I had promised them the house forever and then cruelly took it away. I contacted GoFundMe with evidence of the fraud, and they immediately removed the campaign, refunded all donations, and banned my parents from the platform. They tried contacting my employer again, but this time my company's legal team sent them a cease and desist letter. They've since been rejected from another apartment due to their property damage history, and I heard that they're moving to another state to live with my uncle, who I've warned about their behavior. I've changed my phone number and email to prevent further contact and closed all social media accounts they knew about. I've used part of the house sale money to buy my own condo in San Francisco, and I recently received a promotion at work. Life is good when you're not being emotionally drained by toxic people. Others have suggested I should reconcile with them because they're still your parents. But being a parent doesn't give you the right to blackmail your child or feel entitled to their success. It doesn't give you the right to harass their employer or damage their property. Some relationships are too toxic to maintain, even with family. You can't reason with unreasonable people. My parents will never see themselves as the villains in this story. In their minds, they're the victims of an ungrateful child who doesn't appreciate their sacrifices. I've invested the remaining house sale money in another investment property in a growing market, and I'm focusing on building my own future, one that isn't tied to my parents' expectations or demands. I want to thank everyone who supported me through this. Your advice and encouragement helped me stay strong when I was doubting myself. Sometimes, you need outside perspective to see that you're not the crazy one in the dysfunctional relationship. It's insane they had all that money stashed away the whole time just to keep trying to guilt trip you. That kind of manipulation is exhausting, and you're absolutely made the right call cutting ties and protecting yourself. Update: 9 months later. After my parents violated the restraining order by sending that letter, things escalated further. They attempted to contact me through a family friend, who thankfully called me first to ask if I was open to communication. I explained the situation with documentation, and the friend apologized for getting involved. This has become a pattern. My parents try to use someone as a go-between, I show evidence of their behavior, and the person backs off. In December, I received a letter from my parents' pastor trying to mediate between us. He wrote that my parents were heartbroken about our estrangement and wanted to make amends. I sent him my complete documentation, including police reports and court orders. He called me the next day and apologized. The holidays were surprisingly peaceful. I spent Christmas with friends in San Francisco, the first drama-free Christmas I've had in years. No guilt trips, no demands for money, no passive-aggressive comments, just for good and genuine connection with people who care about me. In January, I heard through the grapevine that my parents were claiming to have health problems caused by the stress I put them through. My father supposedly developed high blood pressure, and my mother was claiming anxiety attacks. They were using these alleged health issues to garner sympathy from their new community. My attorney sent a final warning letter about continuing defamation, reminding them that linking specific health problems to my actions could constitute slander. The investment property I purchased with some of the proceeds from selling their house has already appreciated by 12%. My financial advisor says it was an excellent decision, especially considering the current market. In February, I received a certified letter from my parents. Against my better judgment, I opened it. Inside was a copy of their new will, explicitly stating that I was disinherited, along with a note saying, "This is what you threw away." In March, when my uncle, the one they moved in with, called me, he was at his wit's end after about 3 months of living with my parents. They had taken over his house, were demanding he pay for renovations to make it more suitable for them, and had alienated all his friends with their behavior. He asked me how I had dealt with them for so long, and we ended up having a 3-hour conversation about their manipulation tactics. My uncle eventually asked them to leave, and they're now renting a small apartment. From what I hear, they've been telling everyone that their son and brother cruelly abandoned them in their time of need. In April, they made one last desperate attempt to get to me. They showed up at my company's annual public tech conference where I was scheduled to speak. Security recognized them from photos I had provided and prevented them from entering the event. When confronted, my father claimed they just wanted to see their son succeed. Security escorted them off the premises, and they were warned that trespassing charges would be filed if they returned. That led me to consult with a lawyer about getting the restraining order extended, which was granted for an additional 3 years. The judge noted their pattern of escalating behavior as justification for the extension. On a positive note, I've been promoted to lead a new development team, and my salary has increased again. I've expanded my investment portfolio, and I'm considering buying a vacation property next year. It's amazing how much you can accomplish when you're not constantly drained. I've also started dating someone who comes from a healthy, supportive family. Meeting her parents was an eye-opening experience. They're proud of her accomplishments without taking credit for them. They respect her boundaries, and they don't expect anything in return for their love. It showed me what normal parent-child relationships actually look like. Some people have asked if I'll ever reconcile with my parents. At this point, I don't see that happening. Every communication attempt has been about making me feel guilty or trying to regain control. Some people are incapable of change. They see me as an investment that should be paying dividends, not as an independent adult with my own life. For years, I tried to appease my parents by giving in to their demands, hoping it would be enough. It never was. The only thing that worked was drawing a clear line and enforcing it consistently, even when it was difficult. You don't owe anyone your success. And most importantly, it's okay to walk away from relationships that consistently make you feel diminished, even if society tells you that family is forever. Thank you all. I hope my story can help others in similar situations realize they're not alone. Extending the restraining order was a smart move. Some people just don't get the hint until there are real consequences. Also, huge congrats on the promotion and expanding your investments. It's inspiring to see how much you've been able to grow and thrive once you stepped out of that toxic environment. And meeting someone with a healthy family dynamic must be such a breath of fresh air. It really puts everything into perspective. You're so right about not owing anyone your success or happiness. Sometimes walking away is the bravest, healthiest thing you can do, even if it goes against what others expect. Have you ever had to set firm boundaries with family or loved ones to protect your own well-being, even when it felt really hard? How did you handle it? And what did you learn from the experience? Thank you for joining us today in the rLounge. Be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on our next video. Until next time. And please put your chair back where you found it.